Hey guys, welcome back to the third episode of automating website deployment in Azure with Terraform v3. In the last episode, we just got done adding a random secure password, an outputs file, a variables file, a TFRs file, and adding variables to the main.tf file. In this episode, we're going to focus on infrastructure improvements. So this is our current infrastructure. We have a single virtual machine with a public IP attached to it. And currently, if a user wanted to connect to the website, they would navigate to the public IP of this single virtual machine. If they wanted to do administrative tasks, such as accessing the terminal, they would use SSH to this public IP of this machine. So the improvements we want to make, we want to implement variables for scaling to give us the option to have more than one virtual machine. In the process of this, we're going to add a second web server virtual machine. Since we're using variables, you could easily change the variable and make this more. For the example, I'm just going to go ahead and do 2. We're going to add some resource tagging. We're going to introduce a load balancer. We're going to improve security by updating the NSG rules to allow traffic only from the load balancer front end. So this will be our improved architecture diagram. You could see now we're going to have 2 web server VMs, and neither of these will have a public IP. And so you can see here from a user's perspective, if somebody's coming in from the internet, instead of connecting to the public IP of one of the web server VMs, they'll connect to the public IP of the load balancer over HTTP. The load balancer will then perform health checks, making sure these web servers are healthy, and send the user to one of the web servers, assuming both are healthy. You can also see up here we added a storage account to store the pictures. And another thing we did was we added a Bastion host. So we had to create an Azure Bastion subnet. It has to be named that for the Bastion host. And now instead of a user using the VM's public IP to SSH into them, you could go ahead and use the Bastion host. So the VMs will not be shown over the public internet. So I wanted to mention some single points of failure here and some things, if you wanted to improve this, you could. This is going to be the final architecture diagram of this project, but if you wanted to go even further and make this even more highly available, first of all, one load balancer here. This is a single point of failure, so you could go ahead and make multiple load balancers. Another single point of failure is the availability zone. Currently, everything is in this one availability zone. So if this availability zone goes down, everything goes down. So you could make this into multiple availability zones. And the third thing would be a regional failure. If you wanted to prevent that, you would have to deploy this into multiple regions. So next I'm going to go ahead and just show you some of the code changes I've done, give you a demo showing the Bastion host connecting and the web servers, both utilizing the load balancer. So I'll see you there. Okay, so on to the demo portion of this. You can see in PowerShell, I just want to list out all the files we currently have. We now have 2 different scripts, the install Nginx script and the Nginx pages script, which I'll show you the contents of those briefly. We have the main.tf, the outputs.tf, the provider.tf, the terraform.tf bars, the variables.tf, and all the images. So the only thing that structurally changed in our files was switching these 2 scripts, or actually just adding 2 scripts instead of having one. So in the main.tf file, I just want to scroll through here and show you some of the changes that I've made. You can see the resource group, that's still the same, the virtual network, us creating the subnet, the network security group. And here we can see allow SSH from the Bastion host. And if you look closely at the security rule, this will only do things in the Bastion host subnet. And for allow HTTP from the load balancer, you can see that here. And this was where we had the public IP of our virtual machines. I just went ahead and noted this out since we're no longer using this. And you can see down here, instead what we do is we create a load balancer public IP, which is what I showed in the architecture diagram. We also go ahead and create a load balancer. We create the pool that the load balancer is going to use, which will be our 2 virtual machines, and we create the health probe to make sure these virtual machines are healthy. We also create a load balancer rule. And then here we're still creating the NICs for each VM. Here's where we're adding the Bastion host. So you have to create a subnet for the Bastion host, and it has to have this exact name, Azure Bastion Subnet. Here's creating the Bastion's public IP, which I mentioned in the architecture diagram. Making the Bastion host. And then right here, that's our generate. This is something new I made with random, and this is gonna generate a random string for the storage account to use. Since storage accounts have to have a globally unique name, this should take care of that. Here you can see us actually going ahead and creating the storage account. This is us creating a container within the storage account. And this is us scanning our current directory and basically just putting all our Koda pictures from the directory into the storage account. This is where we add the second script to the storage account. This is what I had to do to get this to work using the Bastion host instead of SSH over the public internet. And we're here to things you've already seen: generating the random password, creating the virtual machine. Here you can see our cloud init script changed a little bit, and it references a storage account now. So here is our Nginx installation script, and you can see this doing all the installation tasks. And now what we have instead is we have this Nginx pages script, which sets up all the HTML portion. From our variables, I believe these are still the same. There's a VM count, so if you wanted to change this, you would actually change it in TFRs. You could change this to 6, say, and you would deploy 6 virtual machines, which would all be added to the load balancer for the health checks in the backend pool, to have you navigate to them is the website you're seeing. For outputs, I believe I did add some outputs. We have the resource group name, VNet information, virtual machine name, the Bastion public IP, the admin username, the admin password, and the providers are the same. We have the random provider, and we have the Azure RM provider. Somewhere along the way, the wrong file got transferred into here, so I just had to fix that. So I'll go ahead and show you a demo now of me using this. Onto the demo of me using this, we'll just go ahead and run Terraform init to load our providers. And we'll just give this a moment. It should be fairly quick. Okay, we'll run Terraform FMT, which will format anything if needed. And now we'll go ahead and run Terraform plan, which would just show us what apply would do. We really could have skipped this. I kind of just have a habit of running it. We'll give this a second to run. Okay, now we're gonna run Terraform apply. And this is where everything's gonna provision. This is gonna take a few minutes. I'm gonna pause the video. Once provisioning is complete, I'll just quickly scroll through this, show you what's been provisioned, and then I'll also go ahead and show you, everything working and me using it and how the new workflow looks from a user perspective. So you can see I ran into an error here when I tried to run Terraform apply, and we can see a resource with the ID, resource groups, Koda pix 2 RG already exists. This is from some testing I did earlier. So I just went to the Azure portal and manually deleted this. It's currently deleting. I just figured this would be a good example to show you how we could change the TFRs to give this something else. So we'll go ahead and just name it Koda pix 4, which I know I'm skipping a number here. And then we'll go ahead and run Terraform apply again. And now, just like the last time, I'll go ahead and pause and I'll show you the outputs once it's completed. So you can see Terraform apply finished running. We have our outputs here, and we could just go through everything that was created here. I think I'm just going to show you in Azure though. It just seems a little bit easier. And we'll just go ahead and double check and make sure everything's working. So I have Azure here. We will go to our resource groups, and we'll see if we can find that Koda pix 4 resource group, which we see here. Inside this resource group, we can see the Bastion host, we can see the load balancer's public IP, which you might not have noticed. I actually meant to output the load balancer public IP, not the Bastion public IP. I'll go ahead and just fix this in the next video where I do some Terraform improvements and we're at our completely like end of the project. But so we can see the public IP here that is attached to the load balancer. So if we navigate to that, we should get to our virtual machines, and I'll just go ahead and show you that our virtual machines don't have a public IP anymore. So we have CodaPix 4 VM1, CodaPix 4 VM2. If we go to our virtual machine, we won't see a public IP anymore. So let's go ahead and navigate to our Bastion host's public IP. And you can see here, take an adventure with Koda. Join Koda as he tells you a story through his favorite moments. Served by CodaPix 4 VM1. This is the extra spot I added just to show you the load balancer was working. So we'll just go ahead and click through here. I like to zoom out so we can see everything. And we can see this website populated. So let's go ahead and just try to refresh and go to this again. I'll go ahead and try an incognito window. What we should see, assuming the load balancer is working properly, is we'll see now we can see served by CodaPix 4 VM2. So we see the load balancer is successfully load balancing. And the next and final thing I want to show you is that we can use the Bastion host to connect to these VMs now over SSH. So if we go ahead and we'll click on connect via Bastion, and we can open up PowerShell here, and we can do Terraform output admin password and get our admin password that was randomly generated. That'll be the password. Azure user is the user, and we'll go ahead and connect. And from here now you can see we have terminal access to the VM. And we'll go ahead and just try that on the other VM. There's really no reason it shouldn't work, but I think it's worth showing. So we'll go to the resource group, we'll locate our other VM, we'll go ahead and connect via Bastion, Azure user, that same password, which I need to grab on my clipboard again. Okay. And we can see we are connected to our other virtual machine. So I just wanted to say thanks for watching. I'm currently destroying the environment we just set up. In the next video, I'm going to make some Terraform improvements, and that'll also be the video where we showcase the final demo for this project. Thanks.